Yeah, we wanted to talk about mechanical methods of weed control. This involves the use of tractor drone equipment or ox drone equipment. These could be ploughs, cultivators, spike tooth harrows. So we wanted to make a presentation on mechanical methods of weed control. So our topic is mechanical methods of weed control. Here I've got a slide showing maize with weeds. We are going to focus on the use of machines or mechanical devices driven by animal or fossil fuel energy to control weeds. We are aware that some farmers are shifting from conventional tillage to conservation agriculture. It is actually the conventional tillage which requires the use of machines or mechanical devices, which are animal drawn or tractor drawn. As for conservation farming, it may not require this kind of machinery. So we are going to focus on weed problems at land preparation, planting time, and the weeds which occur at 2, 4, 6, 2, 4, and 6 weeks after crop emergence. Now, at land preparation, let us discuss the issues of pre-planting tillage. Ploughing can be done to remove existing plant growth and create a clean seedbed. Some of the weeds which could be a problem are cyanodactylon, Cyperus esculentus, Cyperus rotundus, and Coniza sumatrensis. These can be removed at this stage. There are three things about or issues about ploughing. Ploughing buries weed seeds at a depth from which they fail to emerge. This is suicidal germination. Weed seeds induced to go into a state of dormancy. This is another thing which can happen to weeds, which are weed seeds which are buried. They can go into dormancy if they don't emerge. Also, the weed seeds previously buried are brought to the soil surface, and these will be ready to germinate when moisture is sufficient. For example, after the onset of rains. So these are the weeds which are a challenge when growing crops. This then is the mold body plough, which is used for pre-planned tillage. This is the disc plough, which is also used for pre-planned tillage. These are tractor drawn implements. This one is the Ox-plough. Another Ox-plough, which can take double furrows. This could be heavy for animals. Here we've got a tractor ploughing operation, which is burying trash. If there are some weeds, they will also be killed at this stage. Here we've got animal draft power. The plough at this stage could kill any weeds. For example, Cynodon dactylon, Cyperus esculentus, or Cyperus rotundus. They could also be conizer species. Here we've got a ploughing operation. It is mainly burying trash. If there are some weeds, they will also be killed. We can see this is ploughing and planting at the same time. But the problem with the planting at this stage, that is putting seed behind the plough, the seeds may be buried too deeply to the extent that they may fail to emerge. This one is the disc harrow. Usually this is used after ploughing to break clods. So disking is usually used to break some clods. It can also kill weeds. It exposes weeds on the soil surface, and then they are killed by desiccation. So the implements which we have just discussed are focused on pre-plant tillage. Now we are going to talk about the second stage. At this stage, the farmer could have just planted the seed, but the seed has not yet emerged. At this stage, we can use what we call fast shallow cultivation. The first flush of weeds have to be removed because they are very competitive. However, this fast shallow cultivation may not be effective under wet conditions. It may also not be effective against big weeds. One of the advantages of shallow cultivation is that we can combine it with herbicides, especially pre-emergence herbicides. This can be used to incorporate the pre-emergence herbicides to make them efficient, especially when moisture is critical. The implements which can be used for fast shallow cultivation are spike to the harrow. You can see behind the tractor there's a steel frame with some spikes. This is the spike to the harrow. Here we've got a spike to the harrow suitable for animal draft power. You have a triangular shape, which is actually a steel frame fitted with some spikes. Here we have got another different frame, which is more or less rectangular with also steel, with also some spikes. So the spike to the harrow is actually ox drawn or tractor drawn. It can be rectangular, triangular steel frames, with the spikes attached, as you have seen in the previous slides. The spikes are 5 to 7 centimeters with a sharp end. Spikes break soil surface and uproot weeds. Weeds are exposed to the soil surface for desiccation. Weeds which germinate from the first 2 centimeters layer of soil are the ones which are vulnerable to the action of the harrows. However, crop seedlings which emerge from greater depths are not affected. So there is a selective killing of the weeds depending on the depth they are germinating from. The crop, for example, is germinating from 6 centimeters. It's not affected by the spike to the harrow. Here we've got the Millepede or rotary cultivator, which can also be used just before the crop emerges. It consists of an axle fitted with rotating knives, which can actually kill the weeds as it rotates. Here's another example of rotary cultivator. Notice that axle with those fitted blades, rotating blades or knives. Again, the rotary cultivator with those knives, which are intended to slash the weeds. So this is tractor drawn. It consists of several rows of rotating fingers or knives or blades mounted on a shaft on a steel frame. The rotating fingers or blades have a gentle plucking and lifting effect. Weed seedlings will be plucked out by this rotary cultivator. Now, can be used, just before crop emergence. Now we are going to move to another stage when the crop is actually emerged. This is where we can use in-row cultivators. So the in-row cultivation can remove weeds from the between row area. However, there's a limitation. If the crop height reaches 60 centimeters, then damage will occur to the crops. So the height is very important. The other issue concerning cultivation is that it's not effective under wet and humid conditions. Weeds in the row have to be removed by hoeing or hand pulling because they are missed by this operation. The advantage is that ox cultivation can reduce labor for hand hoeing. Ox cultivation can create a rough surface which helps to conserve moisture, which is quite an advantage, especially in areas where rainfall is a problem. In fact, in most of parts of Zimbabwe are in the semi-arid environment. So we expect ox cultivation to help in terms of soil moisture conservation. Here we've got examples of ox cultivators. These are steel frames with handles fitted with some tines, which I will show you in a minute. This is a Duckfoot tine which is fitted at the back of the ox cultivator. And here we have got some tines which are used to remove the weeds. It has got two sharp ends. When one of the ends is blunt, you can turn it around and use a sharp end. So basically, cultivators have got 5 tines and moves in between the rows. Here we are focusing on the animal drawn tiny cultivators. The types of tines. We've got 2 types, the shovel type tines, the Duckfoot tines. In addition, we've got a lever, which is used to adjust the cultivator steel frame so that it can be moved outwards or inwards depending on the width of the between row area. The ox cultivator is very efficient in removing weeds when they are less than 15 centimeters. Mouth guards are necessary for the animals so that we avoid animals grazing the crop, because it's one of the disadvantages. You may be removing weeds and your animals would graze your crop. This is the tractor drawn tiny cultivator. Please notice the steel frame and the fitted tines. So it can be dragged in the field, but it can be adjusted so that it can fit into the crop rows. Another example of a tiny cultivator, which is tractor drawn. Here we have got the tines which have been adjusted so that they can fit the narrow rows, as can be displayed by that picture. The tractor drawn tiny cultivator can cover 2 rows or 4 rows. They are fitted with the light spring tiny cultivators so that they are not stuck to obstructions during when they are being dragged. The tines are mounted on a steel frame. Actually, the steel frame has got some weight which can push the tines into the soil as they are dragged by the tractor. And we have noted that smallholder farmers, apart from using ox-drawn cultivators, there are some farmers which can use the ox-drawn plough. In fact, most smallholder farmers own ploughs in Zimbabwe. The moldboard plough is used to remove the between row weeds. The plough has to move twice in the between row area, so it could be one of the disadvantages. when compared to the ox cultivator, which has to go once. Weeds are directly removed in the between row area, and those in the in row can actually be buried by the soil and get killed. So the ox-drawn plough could be efficient in removing the weeds. A ridge is created on the crop row, which can be tied to conserve moisture. This is also an advantage. Rupende in 1993 observed that in the ox-ploughed areas, as a means of weed control, the striga asiatica infestation was reduced. This was in Chinika communal area, or resettlement area, sorry. Now, there are some farmers who may remove the moldboard breast. Once that moldboard breast has been removed, instead of 2 passes, 4 passes will be required between row area. Weeds in the row have also to be removed by the hand weeding, because when you have removed the moldboard breast, it's no longer efficient in throwing soil onto the weeds which are in the in row. It has also been noted that using an ox-plough without a moldboard breast can create dry soil profiles. So in the semi-arid environments, this can accelerate water loss, which we actually don't want. We've got the ridges. They look like ploughs. They can form ridges. These are ridges, tractor-drawn ridges. This one is an animal-drawn ridger. The ridges are rarely used by smallholder farmers. They are not popular in smallholder farming areas, probably because of high draft power requirements. But they can throw soil in opposite rows and create ridges. These ridges are commonly used in tobacco and paprika crops. Yes, is an example of an ox-plough. The farmer is struggling with this plough because the hitch assembly was removed. Normally, farmers remove them thinking that they will become too heavy for the animals. But if you remove the hitch assembly, you make the plough difficult to control. In some countries, they can just use one animal, and their implements are quite simple. Here we've got gang tillers or rolling cultivators. Here we've got spikes fitted on a rotating drum, and these spikes hit weeds as it is rotating. You can have a series of these gang tillers or rolling cultivators. Example of this is a picture of a rolling cultivator. or gang tillers. Then it's one unit showing the unit of a rolling cultivator. You can see an axle fitted with those, you may want to call them spikes, or rotating spikes. Here we've got rotating cultivators, which are fitted to the between row areas. In rotating cultivators, so you can have a series of them fitted on a steel frame, and you can cover a big area in one go. Gang tillers or rolling cultivators, these are fitted on a toolbar. The shaft on which it is, which is mounted on a heavy drum with hooked prongs or spikes. So you've got a rotating drum fitted with the prongs or spikes. These are the ones which dig out the weeds. Hand weeding or hoeing can actually be done at all stages. Before planting, at planting, after crop emergence, because it's flexible. Yes, hand weeding or hoeing, which is done very late. So at this stage, although weeds can be removed, but this may not be of any benefit to the crop, because with hand weeding or hoeing, timing is important. So early weeding is important. One of the issues to do with hand weeding is that it requires a lot of labor. In Zimbabwe, we often see that mainly women are involved with this task. Hand weeding or hoeing is the common weed control method in smallholder farming areas. Hoes, iron blades, which are attached to the wooden handles, are used to dig out the weeds. Weeds close to the crop row have to be hand pulled. Hoes are used while bending or stooping. Actually, this operation requires a lot of man hours, up to 200 to 400 man hours per hectare. Hand weeding or pulling or hoeing is very difficult under wet conditions. It is slow, it is labor intensive. Most of the crops need at least 2 weedings. Smallholder farmers spend maybe 50 to 70% of their total labor time hand weeding. It is cumbersome and inefficient. Timely weeding is difficult to achieve. There's labor bottlenecks around November and January when Hand weeding and planting may compete for labor, and usually farmers prefer to go on planting because of moisture. And of course, when they come back to weed, it may be too late. Some farmers fail to complete hand weeding, and we've seen fields which are abandoned. Hand hoeing is also associated with the spinal problems. So it is a healthy issue. One of the problems with hand weeding is weed mimicry. There could be similarities between finger millet, Elusine coracana, which is a crop, and Rapoco grass, Elusine indica, which is a weed. There are also similarities between Rhodbolia coccincainensis, chamfer grass, a weed, with maize. There's also a similarity between stock rose, hibiscus musae, with cotton. Here we just want to summarize mechanical methods of weed control. Please note that at land preparation, the implements which are ideal for use are moldboard plough, disc plough, disc harrow. At planting time, which is number 2, or crop emergence, we can use the spike to the harrow, Millepede, or rotary cultivator. At 2, 4, and 6 weeks after crop emergence, we can use tractor drawn tiny cultivators or animal drawn tiny cultivators. Ox-plough, ridgers, gang tillers, or rolling cultivators. Hand hoes can also be used at this stage, but hand hoes can be used at all 3 stages. So this is the end of this lecture. Okay, so we've just been talking about mechanical methods of weed control, and I must end it here.